ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and welcome to April Fool's edition of the Midday Market Report. April 1st, flip the calendar, flip the script. We're here. March is gone. History. Now we're on to April, and what a day for the ECSI VIPs. Had a rough Monday. Had a great show with Scotty, crunched some numbers. And what Scotty likes to say, and I like to say, when you see an edge, you pounce on it. You go to the window with conviction. We were 5-0 in baseball, 1-1 in hockey, 6-1 on the day. And I isolated San Francisco and Webb. We had four pieces on that. We had San Fran first five minus the hook. We had San Fran team total over 2.5, first five plus 126. We had San Fran full game money line, and we had San Fran team total over 4.5 plus 126 on that. Huge night for us there. And we also piggybacked on Bubba Chandler first five, and 8 strikeouts electric, 6 walks. But that's what kids do when you're electric like that. A tightrope walk there. Some bad beats out there as well. But again, 5-0 for us on the diamond. And excited there. Full slate today. The Aces are back. Headline today, Paul Skenes Day, hoping for no April Fool's jokes from the BUCCOS. I looked at that game. I looked at Crochet. I looked at a couple other spots. The problem for me, digging into Pittsburgh first five minus the hook, digging into the Red Sox and Crochet first five minus the hook is Pittsburgh usually doesn't score a lot of runs for Paul Skenes. The Red Sox can't score. If you remember my headline yesterday, is it time to panic if you're a Red Sox or Oakland fan? Oakland woke up. I knew they would. I had their team total the night before. They get to the finish line. They take care of business. The Red Sox are just playing with their food. 1-4 start, the same as last year. They started the same thing. What they're hoping for is Crochet gets them across the finish line. They get to 2-4, and Friendly Fenway on the horizon for Friday home opener there. So a lot to talk about. I know Scotty's chomping at the bit here, so let's bring him on. What's up, Scotty?
What's up, man? Step out game for me, and said it yesterday. Step out game for San Francisco. Sometimes you find these spots, and look, they don't come up that often. But when they do, you got to take advantage of them. And the only thing that surprised me in that game was I didn't think Webb had his best stuff. I mean, he really muscled through. He had a rough third inning there where he couldn't throw a lot of strikes and gave up a couple hits, and then all of a sudden they scored 3 runs, and I'm like, shit, here we go. I got to worry about this game. But it didn't work out that way. He battled back, and then he didn't give up a hit after the third inning. Got like 10, 11, 12 guys in a row, and mowed them down. And then they put in their bullpen pieces, and they just it was San Francisco's day.
You want to hear something funny? I played the hook in the first five, and 4-0 Webb. You're standing at the window. I'm being facetious here, and then they scored 3, and it always works this way. Bottom of the 5th lineup: Tatis, Machado, and Cronenworth, and I'm like, oh my god, I know what's gonna happen here. And as you said, the bulldog that Webb was. He kind of grabbed the bulls by the horn there, and nice to start the game with a homer. You don't like the bases loaded, and you chewed with your food. You could have broke it open, and then the next batter hits a homer. But they get there. It was San Fran's day, and the offense. What they scored 9 runs, so for them that's a week's worth. But I think with the coach's mentality. We don't know. It's the first time ever some college coaches come straight over to the MLB. I think are they a 500 team? I think they'll be playing with that. They're going to face, the Dodgers. We know all that. But I'm excited for them. And I looked at today's game, and your first instincts in my brain, there's Pavetta, bad start, Bulldog, here we go. I don't want to step in front of San Fran right now. And they've only won 2 in a row, but the bats are finally awake, Scott.
Well, I mean, that's going to happen. These are Major League Baseball players. Look at what's going on in Toronto. You would think Toronto is going to go out and just smash Colorado, but they don't. And they have length in the lineup, and then when the bullpen guys come in and stuff, they just can't match up. So Toronto, eventually pulls away, but they're not out there, beating the crap out of teams. They're not hitting. The Yankees aren't hitting. The Mariners aren't hitting. Obviously, Boston is just not scoring. Of course, yesterday they didn't hit, but it is what it is when it comes to Major League Baseball. And really what you're looking for in the first game that I have today, I'm looking at clusters of hitters that are doing very well. And that's where you're talking about the Texas Rangers. Now I get it. Yesterday I had them first 5 because that was the deal. I liked DeGrom. I thought he had a bigger edge. And, I'm hopeful that Eflin, he left that game. I don't know, his arm fell off or something. And I'm not sure exactly, I haven't heard a whole lot of reports coming out of there about that. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. They got 6 guys. So if he doesn't pitch, well, they got 5 guys now. So anyway, maybe that's a helpful thing for them in their rotation. I don't know. But I guess my point being is that, I thought they were getting ready to really smash him. And then his arm fell off, and I had to come out of the game. So then I had to get used to, I don't know what his name was, Wolfram or whatever his name was, left-handed Wolfram guy came in, and then they started hitting him. It gets down to 1 out in the bottom of the 5th inning. They're ahead 3-1. They just need to get 1 more out, and DeGrom couldn't get it, and they got 2 runs to tie the game. So. I spent some time on this yesterday, specifically this, because I made a conscious decision yesterday to play first 5 money line, not the hook. And that was a very good choice, even though the price was higher. So it was minus 140 to play it, but the value in DeGrom over Eflin was big enough that the edge was still to play the money line. If you played the hook, you got it at minus 105, minus 110, right around that number, right around even money. So you got a better price, but you lost. So if you play these games, be careful on what you choose to bet, because it's not where you can just go out and bet plus a half or minus a half just willy-nilly. You've got to determine the prices. And one of the things I've learned in the first 5 inning pricing, is it's not always better to take a half a run. It's just not, because even in a close game where I thought, I think it was Reds Pirates the other day, I thought it was going to be, it was Burns and Braxton, whatever his name is. I thought it was going to be a tight game and hardly any scoring. Well, and it was that way. But the Reds did score 2 in the one inning there. And I took, the plus a half a run, thinking, okay, this can probably be 0-0, 1-1, something like that. And then all of a sudden, it was 2-0. And not only was it 2-0, it stayed 2-0 the entire game. And my thoughts is that plus a half a run isn't really a good bet. It really isn't in the first 5 innings. Now, I'll do it from time to time when I think that's the right thing to do. I had that option again today, and I didn't do it. I'm on Tampa Bay in the first 5 innings today, and I'm not on the plus a half a run. So anyway, point being is that make a conscious choice on that first 5 innings. I would rather almost be the minus half a run than the plus half a run, only because what are you doing? You're just betting you're going to win the first 5 innings or not. And if you played on the money line, at least you get your money back if it pushes.
I'm not going to name his name. Okay. There's a gentleman on social media who I respect. I did shows for a season in college hoops, big following. I started to do some baseball with him. And his philosophy just didn't mesh with me. And everyone's got their own philosophy. You know that. I know that. We all know that. But I just don't understand the philosophy, meaning you're going to bet 1 unit on a game and you're going to turn a dog. Let's just say, for instance, let's just pick a dog. The Rangers, for instance. You're going to turn them. Let's just say the Rangers today were plus 120. He's taken them on the run line and turning them into minus 135. And so I asked this gentleman, I was like, okay, well, if you're doing that, at least you go and half a unit on them as a dog at plus 120, and then a half a unit grabbing the hook, grabbing the run plus 1.5, I think it is, right? Grabbing that minus the 130. No. So I just don't justify the fact that you're trying to get the square peg in the round hole. Well, if they lose, as long as they lose by 1, we cash. But if you think that they're going to lose by 1 at worst to cash, you got to think they have a chance to win the game. So I never went back to him with baseball again. I love the kid to death. I love his passion and stuff. But my point is, if you think they can cover a 1.5 and you're going to pay the juice, well, have something on them as the dog, because they, how many, I say it in college hoops and football and everything. And the true experts say, how many times does it land on 1, Jeff? Well, it does land on 1. Missed extra point, 2-point conversion, 3-pointer at the buzzer, a missed free throw. And in baseball, it's almost compounded, Scott, because the runs are hard to come by. So you're right. And I want to piggyback there because I'm going to take it a step further here before we get into the games. SKENES' first 5 today is minus 165. Okay. At the Circa. Good morning, Mr. Benson and Mr. Stevens. Crochet first 5 today at the Circa is minus 150. It's 160, 165, 170 in the other spots. Okay. The run lines for the first 5 on those 2 guys. SKENES minus 115 minus the hook. Crochet even money at the Circus getting Houston hit right now because they're the only shop at even money minus the hook. Everyone else is 15 or 10. But here's where I take it that next layer. The under over in the first 5 in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati today is 3.5. The under over in Boston, Houston is 3.5. So in a perfect scenario, they're telling you first 1 to 2 is going to get this 2-1. Runs are going to be hard to come by. Therefore, I'm not saying SKENES is not the play today. I'm not saying Crochet is not the play today. but the edge, other than the pitching, doesn't seem to be there, Scotty.
Yeah, well, sometimes that's the case. Sometimes that's the case, but here's the one thing I think people have to realize: when there are three pitchers in Major League Baseball, only three, and the names of those three pitchers are Paul Skenes, Garrett Crochet, and what's the
Tariq
other?
Skubal.
Yeah, and Tariq Skubal. If you can bet those guys under minus 150, bet them. I don't care. I don't care. Just bet them. They're the best pitchers in baseball, but it's not even really close. So if you look at projected WAR for those three guys, they're near 6. They're 5.5 to near 6. Skubal's at 6. So those three guys are there. Do you know there's like one or two other guys that are at 5, and one of them is Sanchez for Philadelphia, and they got Logan Webb up there. Nobody else is at 5. Hardly many people are at 4. So what does that mean? That means those three guys are way better than any other pitchers in baseball. So they're going to be minus 200, minus 250, minus 300 all season long. If you can get them at less than minus 50, you got value. I'm just telling you, those three guys, you got value because of what they do. And here's a perfect illustration. Let me pull up my pitcher report. So a perfect spot, right? So Skenes. Why is Skenes so good? He's so good because he strikes out 30% of the batters he faces. And he gives up less than, it's 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. You're not going to hit a home run, and you're going to strike out all the time. The batting average against him is 2.16, and his whip is 109. You're barely going to get a guy on base. So he's dominant. His RE24 is 52-52. So even if you get a guy on base, he's not going to let him score. So that's Skenes. And then if you go look at where is he? Crochet, he is 31% strikeouts, 107 whip, and 44.74 RE24. They're not, and then Skubal's better than all of that. Skubal is where's Skubal? Detroit, there he is. He is 30.8% strikeout rates, 101 whip rate, and 43.61 RE24. Nobody in baseball, nobody is as close to those numbers as those three guys. So it's very easy to see. They strike out everybody. You can't get hits. They don't walk guys. And when you get on base, you can't score anyway. So those three guys are different than everybody else. And then everybody else just kind of, you mix them around and you see what's going on. So when you have a guy like today, you have Garrett Crochet against Mike Burrows. Well, who is Mike Burrows? Well, Mike Burrows is a guy who's really a 4 or a 5 starter somewhere. Well, Houston's got him at number 2. So what does that mean? He's totally outclassed, totally outmatched. I get it. He didn't pitch the greatest the last time. He might pitch pretty well today. So he's going to bounce back a little bit. I don't care. Houston is going to have to figure out how to score on Crochet. Can they? Maybe. Their offense is doing a little bit. They're doing pretty well. But the value is way on the side of Crochet today. My number in that game for Boston, where is it? Boston. I have Boston minus 160. And that's not the number. I played Boston minus 134. So there's value there. It's the same thing with Crochet today. I have value on Crochet. I got him under 150. I'm at 144. Okay, Profit X has different numbers than everybody else. I get it. But at the same time, that's what you're betting in Major League Baseball. You got to bet where you find the value. And I just try to tell people that there's three guys that are different. And those three guys are they're just different. if you put all their wins together and then you put their losses together, I bet it's something close to 55 and let's just say, I don't know, less than 10, somewhere in there. So you as a bettor, you're going to be in pretty good shape in any game those three guys pitching.
Well, we got baseball going on. Atlanta Athletics finally scored yesterday. Scored 5 runs. Sale versus Severino. I just listen. Not that I dislike Sale, not that I dislike the Braves. Obviously, I think he's overpriced here. I didn't run back to the windows to the Athletics today. But again, overnight Sale at minus 200 right now, 217. They're as high as minus 245 in some spots, which is good luck to that one. But we got baseball all around the board. So enough of me talking full slate. I'm going to hand it right over to you.
All right. So that first game you're talking about, I didn't bet it. The value is too high. The number is minus, this morning it was minus 205. You just said it was 215, 240 in other places. I have it at minus 185, somewhere in there, 185, 187. So that means there's a slight value on the Athletics. And I'm just going to say this. I said it before. There are certain pitchers that I believe can hang around because their stuff's pretty good in the first, say four innings. Maybe they get into the 5th inning. And I think Severino is one of those guys. So like in the first, 4 or 5 innings, he throws, 99, 98 if he's on and stuff. So he can be competitive in the matchup, which then means you want to look at it from a different perspective and go, well, what do the totals look like? If he's going to pitch really good and in the first 4 or 5 innings, maybe they can keep the numbers down. So you can use that approach or that angle instead of having to go, well, Sale's going to win this game and blah, blah, blah. But maybe they don't cover, 1.5 and all this run line stuff and stuff that you're going to get involved in, because those are very dicey, especially when you're the home team like that. And against a good offense, that's a good offensive team over there. Now Sale, is he's again one of these guys that is a good pitcher. He's older now, but he's still a good pitcher, and he's a 3.6 WAR guy and 1.9 for Severino. So he's almost double the pitcher Severino is. So I'm just going to say it this way because I know the game either just started or it's getting ready to start. That's a pass for me. I don't think there's value there. The next game, I am on it. I think it starts at 12:30, 12:40, something like that. This is Texas. And, last night when I was doing this, Rocker was listed as maybe the pitcher that was going to go, but it's Evaldi. Evaldi's going to pitch today. It's not Rocker. And that matters because Evaldi's last time out, it's the perfect game score regression spot, was a 29. That's an outlier extreme for him. He was a game score 64 over all the games last season. That's an ace. That's what, just for example, Paul Skenes last year, 64. Skubal last year, 65. And here you have Evaldi at 64. Now, I get it. Maybe one year to the next, things happen and things change. But the truth is he's going to pitch really good today. And he's going to face Rogers, who threw a game score 70. Now, I don't expect him to throw a 70 today. Now, it might be an average game score for him, which is, 55, somewhere in that neighborhood, or 50, or it might be an outlier low. So it might be a bad start. So that then goes and says, hey, let's look at Rangers side. And then at the same time, when you look at the Rangers side, the only drawback to this game for me on the Rangers is this is sweep spot. A lot of teams don't sweep anymore. So it makes it harder for the Rangers to sweep here. But Rangers have won 4 straight games, and their offense is starting to hit. In the Substack, I put the thing for the Rangers in there. But let me pull them up for 1 second so that you'll understand what I mean when I'm telling you that we're looking for batting. There they are. That's Milwaukee. We want Rangers. Rangers. So what I'm looking at is offensive WAR. So, WAR has categories of offense and defense, and then it has the overall picture of wins above what a replacement player is. But I want to separate it from just the offensive part. So that's all I look at. And I look at it in 7-day increments. So if you're an offensive WAR player and you have one WAR or more, you're contributing to wins. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys above 2, and then they add another guy at 1.1 and one at 0.9. So they got 6 guys driving the bus for this offense. And it's Jake Berger who bats 4th, Corey Seager who bats 3rd, and they and Brandon Nemo who bats 1st. So it's the right guys. And then you kind of mix in Evan Carter in there who bats lower in the lineup, and Andrew McCutchen when he faces left-handed pitchers. Well, guess what they're facing today? A left-handed pitcher. So I like the idea that their offense is doing pretty well. We're in a spot here where Rogers may not be his best today, and Evaldi's going to be. So I like this spot. My number on this game, and it's not a big edge, by the way. My number is Texas Rangers minus 102, and I don't know what the line is right now. Maybe it's not important, but I think they're probably dogs. I like it. I'm taking Texas, and I'm going to play them. And here's the other food for thought thing that we didn't talk about pre-show is when you get a guy like Evaldi, you think he's going to pitch 5 innings if he's pitching good, or do you think he's going to pitch 7? He's probably going to get closer to 7 than 5. And if he gets closer to 7 than 5 and they're in a pretty good spot, do you think they're going to put in their bad bullpen pieces? They're not. It's going to be the best bullpen pieces. And that's the other thing to think about when you have Crochet and Skubal and Skenes. Those guys are going to go 7 innings. And then you put in the good bullpen pieces and they got to go 8 and 9. And, it's just a way better scenario for the teams. Anyway, that being said, there's value here. It's small, but there's value enough to bet it. So, and you're going to hear me say that all day today. There's bigger spots that I passed on because I didn't like, and then according to my numbers, and then there's other spots that I don't have any step out games today. Sorry guys, it is what it is. But it kind of goes from there. So that's game number 1 for me that I did bet. And then you have this Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game. First thing I want to say about this is when you're doing these things and you handicap the games and you start to look at them and stuff, make sure you do yourself a favor and look at weather conditions. This game at 1 o'clock is 73% precipitation rate, at 2 o'clock, 90%, and at 3 o'clock, 76%. This is going to rain. I don't know if it's going to rain him out. It might. And looking at that, that's not good. But you don't want to bet on Paul Skenes and then have Paul Skenes go out and pitch 2 innings. Rain comes. It's an hour and a half delay, and he doesn't go back out there to pitch because that's what you're doing. You're betting on Paul Skenes. So I think the weather in this game just makes it so that I sit there and go, I don't care what the edge is. I don't care where Paul Skenes is. I don't care about any of it. I don't want to have him go out, come back, sit, wait, all the stuff, stop, start. Jeff says that a lot. I don't want that. So I skipped this game only because of the weather conditions and the weather scenarios. My numbers, and I'll just tell you how I see my Profit X was at 152 for the Pirates this morning. I don't know where the number is now. It might be a little lower. My numbers came back because I don't think the betting market is saying, hey, Andrew Abbott's any good. Well, he's not Paul Skenes, but he's a 3 WAR guy. That's pretty good. And I think they're undervalued in this spot. And my number says Paul Skenes is only minus 130 today, not 150, not 160. So there's value on the Reds, according to what I have. So I wasn't going to be on this game anyway. Even though I thought Paul Skenes coming back and he was going to be, he's never had a start like he did before. His game score was 17. He's probably going to throw a game score 100 today. And then he'll be, game score 58 averaged between the two and kind of back to where he normally is. That's what happens. So I think if the game goes and the game plays, it should be fun. It should be exciting in terms of watching the pitchers pitch. Abbott was really good the last time, and he has had some success of piggybacking games where he's had good one and then another good one, and then he falls apart. So I just stayed off of it. I don't think there's enough value here, and I don't like the weather conditions. So that was my thought on that game. Washington, Philadelphia. I think there's small value with Philadelphia today. That being said, it's a really high number. What's the number? Is like minus 250. I have it at minus 278. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go pay minus 250. So then you're gonna start looking at run lines and first fives and stuff. Well, Cavalli's game start the last time was it was a 40. Wasn't that right? It was 40. I'm pulling it up right this second. It was a 45. So that's below normal, but it's not an outlier. It's just a below normal, 50, 55. But his game score in his starts last season was a 46. So I expect him to pitch an average game, 50, 55. He hasn't had an outlier high. He hasn't had a 17. Phillies aren't really hitting. And then you have Sanchez, who threw a great game. He threw a game score 79, which, by the way, is the highest game score on the sheet today. I don't expect him to go throw another 79, but he might throw a 60, which is certainly enough to beat the Nationals. Now, having said that, we're talking about the Nationals. The Nationals are hitting. The Nationals are scoring runs. I think it's very difficult to sit here and go, hey, let's go bet run lines and do different things because Sanchez is pitching. Now, of course, I'm saying this, and then I'm going to tell you the different story about Boston in a minute. But point being is, I think that this is not a great spot to be betting run lines and betting run lines as the home team to have to cover 1.5. And if you want to transition to a first five, for example, at minus a half, you're paying minus 150s, unless you go and do a minus one, something like that, or a minus 1.5. Then you can change your number. There's a Rock that says, "Hey, Scotty, Philly fan here. I see Cavalli shutting my Phils down here. They're not dangerous yet." Well, look, I will tell you exactly. Kind of what we just looked at with the idea of the Rangers. We just said, hey, we're really looking for clusters of hitters, not just one or two. You need like 4 or 5 guys, hitting right now. And if we go back and I go look at, click on the right buttons and we'll get where I'm supposed to go. If I look at the Phillies cluster is one guy. It's Brandon Marsh, 1.9, Brandon Marsh. And then you have Adolis Garcia at 0.4, Schwarber 0.2. Everybody else is negative. If you're a negative offensive WAR guy, that means that you're helping your team lose. You're not helping your team win. So you're correct in a sense that they're not dangerous yet. They're not close. So there is a way Cavalli can shut this team down. And Cavalli throws hard. He's evolving, and he's their number one pitcher for a reason. Of course, they don't have a lot of great guys in their stable of pitchers, but he is a decent pitcher. He's not Sanchez, but he's got the ability to keep it down. And I don't think there's a good spot that you can find to bet Phillies today, to be honest. So I agree with what you just said. That was a great comment. You sit there and you go, hey, they're not ready yet. And you know what? They're not. They're not doing much. And weather-wise in that game, I don't know if you're in Philly, but it says 22, 27% rain, wind looks like it's blowing out 10 miles an hour to right field, which isn't enough to really affect a whole lot. And rain conditions there, I don't think are going to be anything to worry about when it's 20, 25%. You just got to kind of cross your fingers and be good that misses the stadium, I guess. So that particular game goes that way. Then you have Colorado with Freeland against Toronto and Gosman. Freeland's not very good, but at the same time, he's not very good. He's a veteran, he's been around the block, knows how to get people out. It says originally from that area, but in North Carolina now. I think Freeland's in a spot here where you look at Freeland and you go, is he veteran enough? Can he get guys out? Can he do this? Maybe. Toronto's not necessarily been hitting, but the other part of this is Gosman. Gosman's that classic guy that goes out and throws a great game and then doesn't. He'll throw an average or not average, a bad start. So that's kind of what I'm expecting from Gosman today. So then you got to go and say, well, what's the line look like? Well, Toronto's minus 270. My number was minus 280. So okay, where's the value to bet? There isn't. You don't like Gosman. You don't really like the other side. Maybe you look at, overs, but, how often do Toronto see Freeland? Hardly ever. How often does, Colorado and all their new players seeing Gosman? Hardly ever. So the advantage pitchers. I just pass, right? I mean, you just got to pass. There's no good spot there. And then you have the White Sox going against Miami today. This is Alcantara for Miami. And God, I really hope he has a good season. He's a really good pitcher that he's getting healthy again and stuff. And I would love to see him back in that Cy Young conversation with these guys in the National League, because he was that guy years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And I'd love to see that for him again. And their young team has scored some runs, and they're going to face Smith today. And I always forget his first name, Hagen Smith, I think. Well, maybe that. I don't remember what his first name is, but he's their best pitcher. He throws 96, 97 miles an hour. Now I say that, but all these big guys that are pitching today all throw hard for the most part, except, Freeland and some of these other guys, but most of them are all going to throw super hard. And Smith, his game score last time out wasn't very good. He was where's Smith? There he is. He threw a 27. He's going to throw a lot better than 27 today. And Alcantara threw a 71. He's not going to do a 71. Now, he might do a 60. He might do a 55, which is enough to win. But then you got to go look at it and go, well, what's the price that I got to pay for that? Well, my number says minus 150. The number that was there this morning was 142. So it's probably right about 150 anyway. There's no value again. So if you're going to bet a minus 150, we talked about this opening day, then you need to be looking at your numbers and go, it needs to be minus 170 or higher just to show a little bit of value on the plus side. I'm not seeing it. I didn't bet it. I think Alcantara's a little lower. I think Smith's going to be a little better. So that said, this becomes a no bet situation for me. I certainly don't want to bet White Sox. So there's no way for me to go. So that game goes off to the side. And then you got Mets, Cardinals, right? Cardinals are showing a little fight. I thought this team was going to be terrible. One of the worst teams in the league. They're 500-ish right now and showing a little fight. They won again yesterday. They beat Kodai Senga yesterday. Today, though, they get Freddie Peralta. And Freddie didn't have a great start his first time out. It wasn't terrible if you watched the game because it was, the first game on TV, I think. But game score 40, it's not good. I think he got in trouble like in the fourth inning, maybe the fifth inning. And Liberatore is a game score 44. Both of these pitchers should pitch a little better. Peralta is definitely the better pitcher. If I look at the numbers today, Liberatore shows 1.35 projected WAR, which is even worse than Freeland, by the way. 1.35 projected WAR, and that is the worst pitcher other than Hauser today. when Hauser's not the ace, so he's the number 5 guy. So that's not a good spot to be in if you're St. Louis. But I think he's going to pitch a little bit better. I think Peralta's going to pitch a little bit better. But when you start to look at value and numbers again, everything has to have a price. Profit X was like minus 160 on the road for Minnesota. I had it minus 167. It's not enough value for me there. I still think both pitchers are going to pitch halfway decent, so I don't see a Mets minus a half or Mets in the first 5. I don't see any of that stuff being a value, so I just passed the game. On to the next one, and then you have Tampa Bay. So this game I think goes at like 140. Everybody thought, okay, well, Milwaukee's the greatest team in the world. They score all these runs. Well, Tampa Bay has played them heads up and played them really good. And to be honest, yesterday they were winning the game, and then Cedric Mullins did some stupid stuff defensively in the outfield, caused or allowed Milwaukee to score a couple runs and actually take the lead. And then they went on to beat up the bullpen a little bit more, and they won the game. Tampa Bay's bullpen right now is 29th out of 30 teams. You don't want to bet full games with Tampa Bay until they get that fixed. So if you like Tampa Bay, and in this case I do, if you like Tampa Bay, then you only want to bet them in the first 5 innings, hopefully avoiding any kind of add-on runs or bullpen issues, or they can't close out games. This game today, they have Rasmussen on the mound against Mizorowski for the Brewers. Mizorowski's not supposed to be their number 1 guy. Their number 1 guy pitched yesterday, and that's Woodruff. And Woodruff had some issues in spring of getting stretched out and length and stuff, and he's only throwing 90 miles an hour, by the way. So they're going to be a big difference today. Mizorowski's going to throw 99, 100. But Rasmussen's going to be a 96, 97 mile an hour guy. And Rasmussen came over to Tampa Bay from Milwaukee. So he might have a little, I want to get my, revenge kind of spot. I don't believe in that as much, but he might. Anyway, that all being said, these are 2 teams, and you might not believe that Tampa Bay, especially the way they started, is in the top 5 in offense, but they are. They're the number 5 offense in all of baseball, and Milwaukee's the number 1. So now you have 2 really good offenses, 2 teams that are have lots of clusters, and they're going to go face these pitchers. Mizorowski, when he had his first outing, it was, I think, a game score high number. Where is it? Mizorowski, there he is. He was a game score 61, not an outlier, but a high number. And you had a game score 52 from Rasmussen, so an average game. So what I think you're going to also see is Mizorowski threw 90, almost 100 pitches, the most on the sheet today. So when I saw that yesterday from I forget Brown, he threw 100 pitches in day 1. He didn't throw that many pitches yesterday. They took him out. The workload on these guys when they're throwing 100 pitches is going to come down the next start. They're not going to keep him up there. So I think they're going to have a quicker hook with Mizorowski today. That doesn't mean he's going to pitch poorly, but I'm not going to expect him to go out and throw a game score 80 when he just threw a 60. He might throw another 60. He could be a 55, or he could be in the lower end. With Rasmussen, I had my average start. Well, is it going to be above average or below average? Well, he's a veteran guy, been around the block. And one of the things that Rasmussen does, and where the edge here is, he's a 27.67 RE24 guy. So what does that mean? That means run suppression. He's a guy that if you get on base, he doesn't allow you to score. And in his WPA, which means win percent added, that is another spot where he doesn't make mistakes. So I like that. And you have a young kid in Mizorowski who does. Question, does the Miz repeat K-wise, and can we count on him for 7? Look, the Rays strike out a lot. They're not necessarily a contact team. for me to go and say, hey, seven's quite a bit if you don't get length. I'm more apt to say seven's a fair number than before, and I probably and the other thing I would tell you is I'm kind of in the dark in terms of the price. What's the price on the 7? If the price on the 7's like minus above 120 or something, there's no way I would pay that. It needs to be a lot lower anyway, to make it a reasonable, nice size, current appropriate bet. But I like the question because the Rays do strike out, and they have guys that will, especially in the lower part of their lineup. But I do like the idea that Rasmussen's edge here is all about run suppression, and Mizrachi makes mistakes. In the first 5 innings, I got Rays plus 122. My number on this game, and part of that's going to be because he's got. Sorry, I used the sleeper and kind of different as far as pricing. I got you. It's just one of those spots where what I would tell you is I think 7's a fair price. I probably wouldn't want to go over the number unless if I was betting on it, I got a good number, a fair price on it. But I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, I don't think he's going to strike out 7 either. I think 7's probably a pretty fair number for him in this game. But my number on the game was Milwaukee minus 110. Well, I think it was minus 130. And it might even be higher than that because people are loving Milwaukee. So I think there's value there then on Tampa Bay, and of course that's what you do. You go do that. It says thanks for the heads up on Skenes. I'm staying away due to the weather. Yeah, that's what I did. Look, I don't want to talk people out of making a good bet, but I do want to tell you the facts about certain things. I'm not always right about some of this stuff, obviously, but at the same time, there's good things to bet on, and then there's things to sit there and go, oh my God, I'm going to pray that he pitches good, A, and B, I don't want it to rain. Well, you don't control any of that. Control what you can and bet on the things that make sense. I don't think Skenes make sense today. But I do like the Tampa Bay bet in the first 5 innings, staying away from the full game just because I think their bullpen's a mess. Boston, well, we'll see. Yeah, Boston's the next game. So I'm just going to tell you the way I see this game. And I know Jeff doesn't like it because, and I don't blame him, because Boston's not scoring any runs. But I will say this, Burrows, he threw a game score 28, which is terrible. So he might throw pretty good today. And Crochet threw a 71, which is really good. Now, I don't expect him to go out and necessarily throw a 71 again, but he can throw 60s again today. That's what these guys do. That's why they're the best guys in baseball. And Burrows, he might go throw 50-something today. So that means runs are going to be less. And he talked about it at the beginning of the show where, the numbers looked like, hey, it's going to be 2-1 or whatever. But what I'll say is, you've got a 5.55 Crochet at a projected WAR guy. That's his number. And when I say projected WAR, I'm looking at Steamer and Zips, and these are numbers. I combine them so I get a good marriage between the two. And he's a 5.5. Okay. Well, Burrows is a 1.45. Look, he's like a 4 times better pitcher. So if you're going to get a 4 times better pitcher, you're probably paying 200, minus 200, right? Well, my number in the game is Boston minus 160. And I paid minus 134. So there's big value there on him. Of course, you got to have him go pitch well. I expect him to. Burrows is one of those guys. He does throw hard, but he's not like a big pitch mix guy. He doesn't have, 7 different pitches like Fried does, like he did yesterday and, went 7 innings. I think you're going to see, at some point, Boston start doing a little better, kind of like the A's, doing a little better. And maybe, Crochet goes out there and shuts down what Houston can do. I'm not sold on Houston. But at the same time, I'm not sold on them. They are hitting. And, if you don't get Yordan Alvarez out, they're a tough team to beat. So, and again, you got the real tough left-handed pitcher against Yordan Alvarez today. I think that's a matchup where I favor the pitcher. So I like Boston. I think Boston scratches out enough to win the game. And the value that I got, I think, is great. 134. That's what I'm playing there. The Angels and the Cubs. We talked about this game. I was dying to bet. I was. What's that say? Thanks for heads up with Skenes. It's damn. He can't play the field, but another cruise missile, 3-run bomb, staking Skenes to the lead. There you go. That guy is. I don't know what's going to happen with that kid. He didn't hit last year, just so you know. They're going to have to figure out what to do with him on defense because he can't play center field. And, they moved him off the shortstop spot. Somebody was talking about putting him at first base. So maybe they can find a spot for him at first base. I don't know. Maybe they get rid of Ozuna and let him be the DH. I don't know. But I agree. He can play in spurts and he can be real good. Somebody on that team, and maybe Ozuna is the guy, needs to be able to put their arm around that kid and help him become a man in Major League Baseball, because I think he acts like a kid a lot and isn't developed and ready to go mentally that way. Talent's there, but it just hasn't produced yet. But that's great. 3-run lead right away. So there you go. Making me already look bad about Skenes. So in the Reds bet. So anyway, all that said, I think with the game we're talking about now is the Cubs and the Angels. I was betting all my life. I wanted to bet against the Cubs in that game and Tyon and all the stuff that was going on. And Soriano pitched really good. I didn't think he was going to pitch as good, so I didn't want to bet that game. But Tyon, he only pitched 4 and a third innings. And they took him out, and he had base runners in every inning. They just didn't capitalize. And he actually gave up no runs, but not because he pitched good, just because he got lucky. And then the Angels did score 2 runs and scored and won the game. I think it is what it is. He says, no way, not trying to make you look bad on Skenes. Hell, it could be pouring down rain in 45 minutes. I'm not praying for that. I love baseball, so I want to watch Skenes. So it is what it is. He says, I've been burned by rain too many times. Yeah, look, it's a rough thing, baseball with the weather. They'll wait, especially on a day like today. They can wait 4 or 5 hours before they do anything with a game and make it an evening game. Anyway, you're looking at today's game, and this is Matthew Boyd against Kikuchi. Both guys did not pitch well the first time out. Kikuchi has way better stuff, by the way, than Boyd does. I'm kind of concerned about Boyd, only in a sense that he didn't pitch good for Team USA. He didn't look good in spring training, and his first start was bad. So theoretically, with your first start bad, you should have a good start today. Now, that all said, if you don't have good stuff, you're not going to have good starts. So all things being equal, I want to see another start from him. I think Kikuchi is going to pitch a good game today. So my numbers show a small bit of value on the Cubs, but it's way too high. We're talking another line that's minus 155 or higher. And my number says 169. So as I'm looking at this, I'm going, there's no way to bet this game. They had a real big wind issue. I don't know if it was really wind as much as it was just the air and stuff. And it didn't go out. RotoWire says wind blowing in 17. And yes, if you're in Chicago and the wind's blowing in 17 miles an hour, it's already a tough place to score runs with the wind not blowing out. So that's a suppression on runs. And they've had some issues that way with balls getting crushed in Chicago. So yeah, I think you need to get at minimum a 15-mile-an-hour wind to affect it a little bit. And if you're 20 to 30, it really affects it. They're closer to 30, you go. But obviously sustained winds are important, not just gusts. Because sometimes these places will show you this is the wind at 10, gusting to 15. Well, if it's blowing 10, who cares? It doesn't affect it enough. But if it's blowing 15 constantly, then that can affect it, and especially in the direction of the balls trying to fly out, that can make it. That can make an impact. The temperature also can make an impact, and I know it's been a little warmer in the north, which is great, but it's been a little warmer. So haven't seen a lot of 30-degree weather, 25-degree weather games so far this year, which I like. I don't like to necessarily see these guys playing in snow after they come out from being down here in Florida or out in Arizona and stuff. So it's a interesting dynamic that they have to do that. So I think, weather-wise, if it's cooler and the wind's blowing in, I think it's going to be harder for them to score runs. Kikuchi should pitch good. Theoretically, Boyd should pitch good. Cubs have been off and on offense. They go score 6 runs one game, score 0 to 1 run the next, back and forth that way. And they didn't score yesterday. Kikuchi, his first game, by the way, he throws 96 miles an hour. He didn't hit that number. He was off on velocity. So I expect him to be a little better today. But I stayed off of that one. Detroit, Arizona. Here's this game I'm on. I'm telling you, my number in the game is Detroit minus 178. I got Detroit at 144. So this is Scooble. And again, if you go look at these numbers and you say, well, what's the deal? Scooble is a 6.3 projected WAR guy, and Gallen is a 1.8. Gallen didn't pitch good his first time. He threw a game score 33. I expect him to pitch halfway decent today. But Scooble is Scooble. And when you got a guy whose xFIP number, projected numbers 2.74, strikeout rates 31%, walk rates 5%, doesn't give up home runs, doesn't give up, his RE24 is so low, high, meaning that his run suppression, you're just going to have to work and work and work to get one run. And if you get one run, you're like celebrating. I had a run off of Scooble, and as Detroit's out there scoring 3 or 4. And that doesn't mean that the pitcher's throwing poorly on the other side, but you get 3 runs, and that's enough for Scooble. So I bet Scooble. They got robbed. I shouldn't say robbed. It's the wrong word. They got beat up last night. They were ahead 5-0 for most of that game, and I don't remember if it was 5-2 or 5-1, whatever it was. In the 8th inning, Arizona scores 6 runs. I don't expect that to happen today. I expect Scooble to go deep in the game. Scooble only threw. Let me get my finger on the right monitor so I can tell you, so I can see it. Ooh, here we go. And put it over here. Scooble threw 60. Where is it? There it is. Is that Scooble? Yeah. Scooble threw 74 pitches last time out. He can throw 90, 100 today. He's rested, ready to go. So I like the idea he's going to go deep in this game. I like the idea that they're kind of sitting there going, "Hey, we need to kind of pick up where we got beat yesterday." So I like it. Value is good. I bet it at minus 144. That's where I went with that one. Hauser in San Francisco, San Diego. Pivetta didn't pitch real good the first time out. He was a game score 23. I expect him to be really good today. Hauser, on the other hand, he's not an ace. He's not a number 1 guy. He's the number 5 guy for San Francisco. So there's a pitching mismatch to a degree. Pivetta is a 2.35 guy projected WAR, and Hauser's a 1.15. So Pavetta is double the pitcher Hauser is. These are divisional games. San Francisco won the first two. They've already won the series. This is a spot where, well, this could be a San Diego game. I don't like it in terms of the price. The price was over here. San Diego is listed at minus 142. I have it at minus 126. My numbers don't like San Diego that well. They have them as a, barely, but still less than a 500 team. And they have San Francisco as barely over a 500 team. So that's a little bit where that kind of comes into play some. But so I kind of agree that Pavetta is the better spot in terms of pitcher. Obviously, I don't like the price, and I'm not betting the San Francisco side today. So I'm staying off of that game altogether. And then, New York's playing Seattle, and I'm a little bit surprised at how well New York's hitting against these Seattle pitchers. A. B, I say that I think every year because every year everybody comes in and goes, well, the best pitching staff in the American League is Seattle. Well, if you start matching these guys up and start looking at them, there's not one guy that's a 4-WAR guy. They got a couple guys that are 3-WAR guys. And you know who their best pitcher probably is? It's probably Wu from last year. And going into last year, he was like their number 4 best pitcher. So, they threw their best pitcher in Gilbert yesterday, and he didn't match up, gave up 5 runs to the Yankees. And that's kind of tough to do when Judge isn't hitting home runs. So I think I'm concerned. I think Seattle is as good as any team in the American League. That all said, you're not going to win with Cal Raleigh not hitting. You need J-Rod to hit. You need, and I think he got his first hit last night, the guy at first base. You need to get him to hit. Rosarena is doing halfway decent, but he's not hitting home runs. And they're still playing these cold games with a dome. I don't get it. So now you got Schlittler, though. Schlittler's looked awesome his first time out against the Giants. He hits 100. And again, he's a young kid that can have control problems, but he's got dynamite stuff. So he can go dominate a game, and so does Kirby. Kirby's got dynamic stuff. Doesn't walk anybody, famous for not walking anybody. In his short amount of time, he's pitched one time against the Yankees, and they got 1 hit off of him. So he's dominated Yankees hitters before in the time that they saw him. Doesn't mean it's going to happen today. But again, everything's price dependent. And in this game, I'm showing value on Seattle. My number is Seattle minus 120. And, it was minus 110 this morning. And I think it's more pick 'em now. People betting on Seattle are the Yankees. My problem with this is I can't go bet Seattle until Seattle starts hitting. Seattle will whip off 10 games. They'll win. They'll go 10-2 because they hit, and then they'll go 5-5, or they'll go 3-7 because they don't hit. Well, that's kind of where they are right now. They got to win these games through pitching, and I'm not sure they can. And Schlittler's a guy that can shut them down. Now, my guess is, he hasn't pitched enough for me to really get a super track record on his game score stuff. His game score was really high. It was a 70, I think. Where is it? It was a 75. So you don't expect him to throw a 75 again. And Kirby was a 62. Well, these guys probably aren't going to hit those numbers. It's going to be a little lower than that today. But the weather conditions out there, the ball's not flying anywhere. So you're going to have to hit to get on base, although both, Schlittler could walk them. So I just think there's too much in play here. I think the value's on the Seattle side. I didn't bet it. And then there's 2 other games. The one game I really wanted to get involved in and didn't get involved in, and that's just because I think that my numbers came back and said, hey, don't do it, but it's very minimal. I think Joe Ryan is going to throw another good game. He has dominated the Kansas City Royals in the past. He threw a game score 70, though. So I can't expect him to do that, but he has dominated, and I mean dominated, the Kansas City Royals lineups in the past. And hate's a strong word. I don't like this guy Cameron for Kansas City. And I know we got one of the guys that makes comments on here who loves Kansas City. Cameron is a guy that is an average pitcher at best. He has an average fastball, average movement. His stuff plus numbers aren't that very good. What he does is he has RE24 skills. When guys get on base, he doesn't let them score. He's got really high RE24 for a guy that doesn't have good stuff. And yet last year was his rookie season. So I'm going to guess that, that's not going to carry forward for him. And I think that the number was Minnesota like minus 108, minus 110. I have it minus 102. So it's kind of right in that ballpark of, hey, it's playable. I think that this is, and yes, rain concerns in Kansas City too. There's no question, no question. When I was looking at that, I think there's 3 spots where there's St. Louis is another spot where I think there's rain today. So if my memory works right, and trust me, I'm old, so it doesn't always work right, and I forget names half the time. But I liked the matchup. I liked the spot. I liked Minnesota. I just didn't bet it. And I'm a little concerned about Joe Ryan, but I thought it was a good spot for him. And he has had, some of these guys do this weird thing where they'll go throw outliers, meaning great games, back to back to back, and then all of a sudden they can't get guys out for 2 or 3 games, and then they go do it again. And that's kind of what Joe Ryan does. Joe Ryan is good for some of that stuff. He says your memory's spot on because Mets cards are in a delay. There you go. And then the last game is Cleveland and the Dodgers. And, look, Dodgers you're paying taxes on the Dodgers. If you're going to pay, it's the Dodgers, you got to pay the Dodger tax. And, you said, Jeff said, well, the other day, it wasn't just that. You were paying an Ohtani tax. I'm looking at this game, but in my mind, I think the number was 250 this morning. It might be 260, 270, 280 now. My number was 280. So my stuff, I don't like Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams throws hard, but he walks the world. Then he gives up a couple hits, and all of a sudden it's 4-0 the other guys. So I don't like Gavin Williams very often against the Twins or anybody, let alone the Dodgers. Here's food for thought, though, and I was trying to fight with my AI this morning about it. So Cleveland, the first guy they saw was Roki Sasaki, okay? And this is going to sound bad, but it's Roki Sasaki. So the Japanese pitcher throws hard, and they throw a lot of splitters. So that's their thing. Well, the next guy they saw was Ohtani, Japanese pitcher, and guess what he throws? Hard and a lot of splitters. Well, today they get Yamamoto, throws hard, lots of splitters. So this is the 3rd day in a row they see the same style of pitching. And I guess my question becomes, I've not really seen this ever, or I don't recall it ever being a thing. What disadvantage or advantage then do the Cleveland hitters have of seeing that pitch, those style of pitching over and over and over and over? I don't know. Maybe there's an edge to that. I kind of want to see what it looks like. My AI computer said, well, that makes some sense. But at the same time, Yamamoto is really good and blah, blah, blah. And, all this other stuff that just basically says, hey, it's nothing that is, especially in this spot and in this game, it's nothing that you would go. It makes a difference enough to go bet Cleveland, for example. But maybe if this continues this way, where they're going to end up with Sasaki and Otani, and then Yamamoto, and they're playing, somebody like, I don't know, the Phillies. Maybe the Phillies see that 3 straight times, and the third time I see it, they're hitting it. Just food for thought. Anyway, that's it. That's what I got for today. I know it's a day game baseball day, and I don't have, hey, this is the greatest spots in the world with, Bubba Chandler yesterday was awesome. Boy, was a guy throwing 100 miles an hour, guys, and he's got numbers that match what Paul Skenes does against the, a number 5 guy that's a stretched out relief pitcher. And we're getting, the greatest odds in the world to hammer that bet. And then, we got German Marquez going against the oh my God, we don't have that today. So those are my spots. I liked Texas. I like Tampa Bay in the first 5. I like the Boston, and I like Detroit. That's what I bet. So if you follow me along, I hope we do well. And, it is what it is. I always say this on my Substack. May the baseball God smile upon us.
And be in our dugout. Shout out to Rocket Sauce from NC. That's what we're here for. Questions, comments, concern, add a tidbit or two. Some great points, Scotty, and thank you for doubling down. I am the king of staying away from the start and stops. You're betting a starting pitcher. Nothing worse than getting lathered up and the game's delayed for an hour. We're a creature of habit. These pitchers, I'm telling you, up here, they get to the clubhouse the same time every time on the day that they're going to pitch. And if their warm-up routine is changed, watch out. I then go to who's the muckers, who's the mental guy, who can stay strong. Pitching, rain delay in St. Louis. They're the most famous out of anyone. 2:15 start, not today, but they'll have a 2:15 start. They'll get both pitches warmed up, and then they'll throw the top on. It's not even raining yet. Rain's on the way. Don't worry about it. So Mother Nature is undefeated, guys. Great job. Get your weather reports. Get them. Don't get involved and say, I really love this spot. Hopefully it doesn't rain, and then it rains, and next thing you know, you're sitting there, and then you're waiting, and then who's coming out of the bullpen? Just stay away. 162 games. We're in day 7 of a 162-game marathon. Already tomorrow, Toronto, Chicago White Sox postponed due to inclement weather. They will play on Friday, so our 4-game slate has gone to a 3-game slate. Currently, Pittsburgh up 3-0, bottom of the second. Washington, Philly, 0s, bottom of the first. Baltimore is leading Texas 2-0, bottom of the third. The Braves and Sale up 2-0, top 4. Colorado, Toronto, White Sox, Miami just getting underway. It's Easter weekend, guys. 3-game slate. Me and Scotty will not be here tomorrow. Friday is Good Friday. Life gets busy. Myself and Scotty will not be here on Friday. I might be debuting something on Friday, guys, so stay tuned there. Weekend off. Me and Scotty will be back, obviously, on Monday. We'll do a full re-entry Monday, what we saw over the weekend, what we saw on Thursday, Friday. Closing thoughts, sir.
Yeah, it's baseball. There's things to react to, and things not to react to. And this early in the stuff, I wouldn't react to hardly anything. Starting tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to start using offensive numbers in my stuff. So, it's a 7-day cycle. You want the most current stuff. We're going to have played that. So I really wanted teams to have at least seen two teams, and we're kind of getting through that now. So I think as we get moving along and going forward, there's going to be more and more stuff that comes from me that will allow me to talk even deeper into these games, because right now it's pretty shallow. But you're going to hear some deeper stuff. I'm going to talk offense a lot, and we're going to talk bullpens. So we'll see things a little deeper, a little better, and as we go along, it'll get better and better with that part of it. So it's the start. Whether it's a good start, whether it's a bad start, it doesn't matter. It's the start. It's a long season, lots of bets to make. You don't have to go bet every one you see. Just bet where you think you have value, and if it works out, it works out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And then all I can ever ask anybody is whether you're pushing a button on a computer or you're actually walking to a window, is when you go there, understand that whatever dollars that you're going to go put on this game, whether it's $10, $100, $1,000, whatever you're going to do, make sure you realize that money is important to someone, and it needs to be important to you. So when you go give it to the teller, that you're giving that money over with the expectation and conviction in your mind that you're going to go back to that teller and get double that money back. If you can't do that, don't bet that ticket. Because if you're not convicted in what your thoughts are before you bet it, don't bet. And that's the only thing I will ever say is if you made a good bet, you're convicted in the bet, go do it. If not, don't make the bet.
Good news for Paul SKENES fantasy, guys. 2 innings pitched, 1 walk, 3 Ks, 30 pitches so far. His ERA is now dropped to 16.88, and his whip is now dropped to 2.63. And again, we can thank O'Neill Cruz for those 2 blunders on opening day, and he welcomes him with a home run to say, here, Paul, I'm going to do my best to help you out at least today. Hopefully Mother Nature helps there as well. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Matthew George live from New York City doing his recap of NBA, Yankee talk, some Formula One. He'll give us what his eyes are seeing in the WNBA. And 1 o'clock, Matt Grissom, Quentin Mills back for week number 8, already 2 months in the college baseball, the NCAA Insiders. On Friday, I will be at 10:30 on Wager Talk with Andrew McGinnis to talk some NHL and some bases there as well. Might be debuting a couple new looks. Keep your fingers crossed. Anyone interested in the ECSI Journal? It debuts today, and you can get in for $1 a day at our website. It's a market look, a lot of futures, a lot of live numbers, stuff that you don't see unless you're behind the screen. And we do have an introduction. Buy 3 months, get the 4th month free. You can see all of that at our website, eastcoastsportsinvestors.com. Memberships, any questions, comments, concerns, just send me a direct message at EC Sports Invest. We are going to match the Wall Street Journal when we're done with this, just in sports talk. It's something, if you're serious about investing in sports, you want to be a part of. So again, it's $1 a day, $39 a month, or you can get 3 months for the price of 4, or you can get it for a full year starting today. We will be sending that out to your email today. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB. We wish everyone a blessed day, a happy Final Four weekend, a happy Easter, Passover. The Braves, the Athletics are now on the board. It's 2-1. And the Phillies have just scratched one across. My gut will tell me that was a Schwarber bomb. Let me see if that was correct. Survey says, where is the Phillies? And it was a Schwarber double. So Trey Turner walked, stole second. Schwarber doubled, and the big dog tried to stretch a double into a triple. He must have had that prop today. So, anyways, 1-0 Phillies there. So everyone enjoy yourselves, behave, and stay tuned.